What if the greatest measure of leadership wasn't how many people worked for you, but how many people knew you had their back? You're about to meet Jamion Christian, Division I basketball coach, speaker, and one of the most thoughtful leaders I've ever met. Jamion believes that elite teams aren't built on talent alone. They're built on trust, care, and what he calls forever relationships, the kind that last long after the final buzzer. This conversation is about leadership, belonging, courage, and becoming the kind of person people want to follow. And trust me, by the end, you'll wish Coach Jamion was coaching your team too. Well, hey everybody, welcome back. I couldn't be more excited for my guest today. I met Jamion, I think it's been about 4 years ago with my heroic public speaking adventure. And Jamion is incredible, and he's here today to talk about what he does. I think y'all are going to love this. I already in the pre-show got so much stuff that I'm going to try to bring up again so y'all can hear it. But without further ado, Jamion, could you please introduce yourself, the work that you do, and also what form of athleticism you bring to the stage as you speak, and all the other amazing things that you do. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, I love it. I'm Jamion Christian. I believe in building supportive, collaborative, and competitive environments. That's my entire life's focus. A lot of people get caught up in winning and losing. I think if we do those three things at the highest level, we'll build what I call an elite team status. And when you get to elite team status, it means you're able to handle the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, but you're able to really find yourself becoming your very best as a coach, as a leader, as a speaker. It's all about impacting people and helping them become the very best they can become. I'm also the head coach at Bryant University men's basketball, and I've been the head coach at various other places, including Pallacanestro Trieste in Italy, George Washington University in DC, Siena College in Albany, Mount St. Mary's University down in Emmitsburg, Maryland. So I'm happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to be with my friend. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yes, coach. You have like a Ted Lasso kind of life and a personality actually too. It's really, really inspiring. I remember one of the first times that I met you, and one of the memories that I have is that we were watching everyone do the thing on the stage, and you had stood up and you were kind of being in the back rather than being seated. And just, I went over and stood next to you, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And you're like, just watching this. And I could just tell that you are the kind of person that just observes what's happening in the world with such strength and calm and thoughtfulness. And I just felt really drawn to you. And I'm like, what's happening? What does Jamion have to say? What can I learn from Jamion? And how can I be around him the whole time?
No, it's funny. I mean, I was thinking about it on the car ride in the day, just like your energy and what you exude into an environment, like definitely like if there was a person in the middle that everybody sort of gravitated to, I felt like that was definitely you. And I felt like everyone really roots for your success. And they really believe in you. And I mean, we had a great class, obviously great graduate class. And we were glad, but I was so glad we were able to connect. I just loved your energy and what you bring into an environment. I think it's truly special. And that's why you're going to do so many great things.
Oh, that's so nice. That's funny. I was really drawn to your energy as well. And it was no surprise to me when you say that you're a coach, and you've done some pretty incredible things. Like your career, you've been a coach since you were little. We were talking a little bit about it, preschool, like pre-show, and then I say preschool because your father is quite accomplished as an athlete as well, right? And so let's talk about that. Let's let them hear a little bit about your journey to becoming a coach.
Yeah, my dad he's a borderline Olympian. He was in Olympic trials in 79, I believe, or 80. But he's a borderline Olympian. At one point, he was one of the fastest men in the world, is how I tell the story. But he's an accomplished athlete, but a very accomplished teacher and coach. He won 2 state championships as a track and field coach. Just incredible in all those ways. From the time we were little, he was working on our mental understanding of how to be successful, how to respond to failure. I give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do for me and my brother. My brother is an assistant coach for the Seattle Storm in the WNBA. He's also been very accomplished, worked in the front office of the Boston Celtics and Washington Wizards. So he's really accomplished. My parents did an incredible job. And my mom, I always give credit to my mom. My mom's a special education teacher for over 35 years. So she has an incredible connection, her and my father, to the process of things. And they were incredible, and she was incredible in defining success for us and not allowing the outer world to define success for what it is. And I think that's really helped us be able to make the steps that we need to make without comparing ourselves. Comparison is a thief of joy. And many people compare themselves to other people in their situation, trying to find a level of success. I think our upbringing allowed us to really look in the mirror every day and just ask yourself, did I give everything I had today? And knowing that if you do that, you're going to put yourself in a position to be the most successful you can be, which ultimately should be the goal.
Wow. Wow. This is really landing. There's so many of us that compare ourselves to everyone else, and social media just makes that a million times worse.
Yeah.
You got to ignore it, right? You got to turn it off and focus on yourself. You didn't, you played basketball too, right? That's where you started. You grew up playing, and then you became a coach, right?
Yeah, I was a Virginia State Player of the Year coming out of high school. That's like Mr. Basketball for the state of Virginia in 2000. I was also a conference baseball player in high school and in college. Sport has been my life. I see the world through sport. I see the world through the camaraderie. That when I walk into an office building, I don't necessarily understand all the functionality of the building, but I can tell if your team is working the right way. If they have the right camaraderie, if they have the right leadership, if they have the great understanding of what they need to do and the purpose behind it. So I've always seen the world through sport. That's just been my life. And, again, I'm lucky to have a chance to be in it and to continue to be able a chance to impact people and to be able to stand here in front of you.
We're lucky to have you. What are some of the things that you notice? Like when you say you walk in, you can tell the team, you can tell what's happening with the team. What are some of the specific things that you notice?
Yeah, the first thing, when you walk into a building, like what does this building say about the people that work in it? If you go in and, for example, the water in the water fountain is cold. That means there's someone that's checking the detail of the water. You might not interact with that person, but there's someone that has a high sensitivity to making sure that whatever their job is, they're doing it at the highest level. If I walk into an arena, one of the things I noticed about Mount St. Mary's when I played there, and I didn't fully understand it when I was a player, but now as a coach, I really understand this. Basketball at Mount St. Mary's is everything. We have one of the college basketball's best coaches in Jim Phelan, 840 career victories in College Basketball Hall of Fame. I had a chance to play for him. But this is a story about the pride that people take in the building. We might play a game on Thursday night, and, we might have a sold out crowd. There's popcorn, there's rappers, there's everything inside the arena. And I would often get up the next day at like 6 or 7 a.m. I'd want to come in and get a workout in. And I'd come in at 6 or 7 a.m. and that place would be spotless. The backboards had been cleaned. It was spotless. Look, there was not a game there before. And I didn't really recognize that until, I got older and got into coaching about what that says about the people and the pride they have in their job and their opportunity. And it actually brought me to a theme. I wasn't prepared to talk about this today, but I call them HPIs, high potential individuals. And my whole recruiting philosophy has become off of HPIs and hiring practice. It's high potential individuals. And when you bring a high potential individual into your organization, they make everything better. Now, the analogy I always use is, let's say you hire HPI and you're working at McDonald's. Well, the first job at McDonald's is probably cleaning the floors, right? So now the bathrooms are a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
Things shine a little bit more. People feel more comfortable. They spend more time there because when they show up to the table, it's fully clean. It's been fully vetted. You have enough napkins in the holder. You feel connected to the environment just because at HPI, that first opportunity, that first job, you took pride in its opportunity. So then you say, well, this is great. You have less flips. People feel more comfortable. So then you promote that person to, maybe you promote them to the fries, right? And now the fries are done well. There's the perfect amount of salt added to them. They spent the perfect amount of time in the fryer. So now people come back and they get more fries. They order more fries. They want to spend more time. There is enjoyment there. So eventually you move that person up to the person that greets you when you come in or at the window, and they're just pleasant. So you say, man, I really like seeing this person every morning. So if you're having a tough morning, you get up and you go to McDonald's to get extra coffee just because you're having a tough day and this person's going to be there to uplift you. So, eventually that HPI becomes the manager, the owner, and that McDonald's does what? It elevates. And so I think my whole life focused on really trying to find HPIs.
Wow.
Because they just make the organization better when they walk in the door. And so that's a principle that I've always been trying to look for.
Wow. That's incredible. And you're right about all of that, and what an excellent feeling that is for everybody involved in that. And as you were talking about it, it made me think about the comparisons and how the comparisons can creep in. And so how do you keep the comparisons from taking over when you're looking for the HPIs,
Yeah. It's honestly, we do a lot of background. There's a lot of questions that we have to answer. The process to get recruited here at Bryant and any place I've been has been pretty extensive. I tell you when I first call you is, look, I want to know about you. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. I just need you to bear with me because the whole purpose is when you get here, we got a short amount of time. So I want to be able to coach you at the highest level as soon as you walk into the door. And I can't do that unless I start to get to know you. So I start with that, but I ask a lot of questions. I want to know, and because I ask a lot of questions, there's a lot of people who I turn away from if they don't have the right kind of internal focus. A lot of questions about your past, how you've responded. Really our response to failure says so much about us, about ourselves. Did I respond with getting in the gym and doing whatever? Or did I respond with taking a break? It doesn't mean, one answer is better than the other, but I just want to know why you did what you did and what was the thought process behind it. Or, tell me about a time that you really worked for something and didn't get it. In that story, I'm going to learn a lot about you. And then I'm going to take that story and I'm going to ask everybody in your circle about it and kind of see what their perspective was to get a good understanding of who you are as a person.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's important stuff, right? Because you guys get in the thick of it and you gotta be able to coach through that and know how they're likely to respond. And every person is different, right?
Yeah.
Every single
and how you're going to, and so much of it is pressure. How are you going to respond to pressure? You're thinking about a guy shooting a free throw in a national championship game. Everything in his life has been pointing him to that moment. And I don't know if he's going to make it or miss it when he steps to the free throw line, but you just want to know that person's going to be able to handle whatever the result is going to be.
I see.
A lot of times in order to be most successful, you got to surrender yourself to the result and buy just so much into the process of it. Almost removing what I want, moving what I want at the highest level to be able to work through it and be able to achieve. So, I want to know I want to ask those kind of questions and get to know them at those kind of levels. And then I want to try to build them up as soon as they get here. I'm trying to build them up to go be the best they can be.
We need the build up, don't we? I mean, I'm thinking about all of this, like how can I think through this in terms of taking the stage, or leading a facilitated event or training, like these are the kinds of things like that's very interesting what you said. How will I be able to handle the result? What's the result going to look like for me? And I think as you say that, I think about, I don't have time for the comparison of what I'm doing or what I'm prepping to do because I'm preparing myself for the result instead.
Yeah. It's about can I become obsessed with the day-to-day work that it takes to go be the best I can be? I just want to be laying in my bed at 75 years old in the morning. When I'm 75 years old, wake up in the morning and I gave everything I had to this life. Every person I came in contact with, I gave everything I had. Every dream I wanted to try to achieve, I went after. You just don't want to be laying there having regrets about things that you didn't attempt to do.
Yeah.
At least I can look at my situation and say I wasn't good enough. But I gave everything I had. No one can sit there and say, no, I gave everything I had. I just wasn't good enough. And I can live with that. But I can't live with, I didn't go chase after that opportunity.
I didn't try.
I tried it.
Yeah. You know what? I always tell people I get pretty scared or nervous speaking 100%, how do you do that? And I'm like, I'm always nervous. What are you talking about? They're like, why do you do it if you're nervous? And I'm like, because the pain of not doing it is greater than the fear of trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you say that, it's like, I would rather have tried and been, well, it turns out I wasn't so good at it, but at least I tried and I had an adventure along the way. I love that.
Yeah. It's crazy when I watch it, America's Got Talent and someone gets up there and they go viral because they can't sing or, they struggle. I think that to me, I'm like, they tried it. I give a lot of respect for you for stepping into a competitive field and saying, I'm going to give myself a chance. And I just have a lot of respect for that. I laugh like everybody else laughs. It can be funny, but I have respect for them. And if that person was in front of me, I'd have such high level of respect for just, going after something, chasing something. So many people will just sit on the couch and talk about what other people aren't doing instead of giving themselves a chance to go and do that. And I'm like, go get yourself in the arena, go get yourself a sword and armor yourself up and just see what you can become and see what happens on the other side of that.
Right. You can see why you're the coach, Jamion. It's so good. What took you to heroic public speaking? Like, how did you end up And how do you use that today?
Well, I'm always speaking. I'm always communicating, speaking to our team. I was a communications major coming out of college. So I actually had 3 different newspaper opportunities. I could have gone right into journalism as a writer. So I've always been really connected to that side of communication, whether it's writing or speaking. Because of the nature of my job, I wanted to communicate with our team better. I wanted to be able to communicate to our donors better, our donor base. And I wanted to give myself another avenue for income. People are looking for athletic leadership, or they're looking for motivation. I provide both of those. And I don't like to do things unless I can go and be the very best at them.
Yeah.
This is why I don't play golf. Okay. This is why I don't play golf, because I can't put enough time into being really good at golf, to warrant going out there and playing 3 times a year.
Golf is very hard. It's a tiny ball.
Very tough. It takes a lot of time. And so with public speaking, I said, let me go put myself in a group of really accomplished people and let myself go and be coached by one of the best, and to learn how can I do this better, and just see, like, can I be the best speaker in the room? Can I learn from someone else? I mean, one of the biggest things I got from it was my connection with so many people like yourself, where I can pick the phone up and ask you a question, and like I can gain your expertise because we have a great relationship, and that makes me better. And as a person who's obsessed with trying to find ways to become better, you need people around you who give you things that maybe you don't think about or see the world in a different way. So that's what really attracted me to that.
I feel the same way. I think, since our time there, actually, maybe it's been about 6 years for me, but with the last couple of years in particular, I've really taken my efforts in the gym way more seriously. Like, I almost go every single day at this point. That's how much I have become that person who loves taking care of myself in that way. And I feel like being around people like yourself and seeing the stories and the way that you move through the world, literally, physically, I'm like, I want that. I want that strength, and that I was lacking in that in big ways. So being around other people that can inspire you and help you and encourage you along the way is everything.
Yeah. And there's such connection to, how you feel mentally and emotionally with what you're able to do with your body physically. Like, we don't have to be bodybuilders or doing any kind of incredible races, but just getting up and moving your body a little bit every single day, what that does to release stress and it build creativity. I mean, you and I are both creators. So, we need that time to push our bodies to another level, to open up more creation so that we can think ourselves through some stuff. So, I think making that understanding what the physical does for the mental and emotional is really important for those who want to be at their best.
Oh my gosh. Almost every newsletter, I launched my newsletter a year and a half ago, and almost every single newsletter is from an idea as soon as I'm done at the gym. Wow. It's a voice text on my phone. I'm like, I got an idea. And then I come home and develop that out. I love that. What did you notice in our time as we were learning, perfecting, growing, strengthening our speaking skills together? What are some of the comparisons or parallels that you noticed in the way that we were coached to speak and that you coach people to play basketball?
Well, that's a solid question.
If there were any. I mean, I'm putting you on the spot.
No. There definitely were. I mean, your ability to take direct coaching. Now, what's unique in our environment there, in our public speaking opportunity, was we were all there because we wanted to learn. And I think a lot of times as speakers or leaders, we assume that everybody in the building is wanting to go be their very best, or they're wanting to learn. So that environment is a unique environment because everyone there wanted to be a better speaker. So their ability, we call it coachability, their ability to be coached was flawless, because we're going to get, X number of minutes a day on the stage, and we need to be so locked into what I need to do better. And there's immediate return on, I need to be better at this by tomorrow, because we only have, I think we were there for 4 days. So number one, it's just like, what does it look like to have an environment of those who want to learn desperately?
Yeah.
How much better does everyone get because everyone wanted to learn desperately? Also, there is a competitiveness in the room where you don't want to get up on that stage and not be prepared, not be better than the day before, because you're watching everyone around you. A big part of my work is about environment. Can we build an environment where everyone can become better and everyone can have success? That's the challenge. And I felt like that environment we had was exactly that. Again, small amount of time, but that focus on getting better. And so what I've done now with my teams is like our first 3 or 4 days when we get here at campus, we won't even step on the basketball floor. we'll spend 3 days on really focused work. How we communicate with each other, why it's important, how we communicate in tough times, how we communicate in good times, how we celebrate together. We're going to spend a lot of time trying to focus on those little interactions. We have a little bit more time than 4 days. So, I get these guys for a full year. But
and you're a team too. Like we as speakers were individuals. So there was an element of we were a team as we learned, but ultimately we were going to go out and be in the world on our own.
Correct. And in some ways compete against each other in that room for the same space. I was unique there because really my base was probably different than everyone else's base there. How I'm able to come and stand on the stage and perform. They're expecting it because I'm a coach and an athlete to come at a little different level and come at a little bit different pitch. And so I didn't necessarily feel that level of competitiveness in the room, but I did feel the competitiveness to get better. I mean, you're an expert at what you do. Like, man, I need to be at that level as an expert at what I'm going to do. So if I'm going to talk about team building, I need to be at this level to talk about it in this way and develop the stories that are going to explain at the highest level. And, that's one of the biggest things I got from that experience outside the speaking was the environment and how people with different missions can fit into an environment and still push themselves to be better.
Yeah. They held us to a very high level. It was an intense experience. Like you said, it was like, you got to go all in and this is your moment and you're going to do it again tomorrow. And that's your moment. We didn't have any time to waste anything. And if you did, it was on you. And he literally was like, you're not ready, get off the stage. I know, but it impacted me in a big, big way because it just made me much, much stronger on every level. And you're right to be around people like that. It's great.
It really helped me in terms of practicing. All that time we spent writing and then practicing. Before that, I think people might have said I was a good speaker, but it wasn't practice. It was just raw. Now I know how to prepare. So if I get up on stage and you sort of laugh at this joke, that I can take it into this direction. If you go this way, I can take it in this direction. The different techniques we learn to re-engage our base. I would not have known any of those ahead of that time. So there's a lot of stuff for me to learn in that space because I work on an academic campus, but I'm not around those who are academic all the time, right?
Yeah.
So to be in that creative space was really powerful for me.
Do you remember any of those techniques of, for example, you said to bring it back? Do you remember what one of those was? I'm curious because I think our listeners would be like, what is that?
It's funny. One of these things I did almost naturally, but I didn't know the importance of it. And so a lot of times when I walk into a space, I would not come in and say, hey, calm down or whatever. I'm just going to walk to the center court and I'm just going to stand there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to let the energy in that room. I mean, if you come watch us practice, you'll see I'll just walk into the center court and I'll just stand there. And I'll know that I'm connected to the group when I start to do that. And the group just starts moving towards center circle and they just know, all right, it's time to start practice.
Right.
I was coaching in Italy, Pallacanestro Trieste. And in my team, my first year, English was a second language for almost everybody, but 2 players.
Wow.
And we got off to a good start. In the middle was really, really tough. We had a bunch of injuries. Guys were getting hurt. Our fan base was going crazy against us. There was a lot of stuff going around. But at the end of that year, we go 11-1. We've won 11 of our last 12 games. We win a championship. We get promoted. But about midway through the year, I noticed our team started connecting to my energy. And I would walk to the center circle and I would stand there before practice. And within 3 minutes, those guys would start walking towards center circle. And then we would start practice.
Wow.
And that's when I knew, I was like, we're going to have a really, really strong team at that point moving forward, because they were not pushing away against my energy at the end of the year. They were being attracted to it.
Ooh. And you guys went all the way, didn't you? You went all the way to the top. You went it all.
We have the best record in the history of the A2, in the history of A2 basketball in the championship. I mean, that's incredible to be a part of. And we had a great group of people, but somehow we started getting our energies connected. And when that happened, a team with great energy that's connected is hard to beat. And we certainly were that.
Wow. Congratulations on all that. It was incredible to watch it play out for you and to celebrate from afar with you on all of that. It's really amazing. How do you do that? How do you walk into a room and command it? Because like you said, it didn't just start happening. What were some of the things that had to be in place to make that happen?
I spend an enormous amount of time with the players off the floor in terms of texting with them, calling them, FaceTiming them. I'm the type of person that if you say there's something you're interested in through our conversations through the year, I'm going to stay connected with you on that. So if a player says, oh man, I'm really into pickleball. If I see a pickleball article, I'm going to send you that pickleball article and I'm going to talk to you about it. And I'm just trying to constantly find these little things that we be connected on. Like we're going to be judged with what we do on the floor. But the reality of it is a lot of times the floor is the last place where it all comes together. We've got to bring it together before we get to the floor between those 40 minutes that ball goes up.
Okay.
So I'm just spending an enormous amount of time one-on-one, sitting with you in the bleachers after practice, not talking to you about basketball, talking to you about any other thing that's out there, just so we can have a level of rapport with one another. I think that helps, and just knowing that, look, I'm your basketball coach and I'm going to always be your basketball coach, but I really want you to be successful in all things. And I'm really curious about you and what's interesting to you and why are you curious about that? And so I'm just trying to make those little individuals, little small steps on a day-to-day basis. I think we're able to get it there. I think we're able to build like a level of respect. I mean, it's really hard to not want to be around someone who wants you to be the best you can be.
Right.
I want to be around that person every single day. I want to run to that person every day. And you talk about that. You talk about going back to the McDonald's person who makes you great coffee every day that you really enjoy and appreciate. They give you a warm smile and makes you feel good about yourself. I want to be that person for our team every day. And if I can be that person for our team every day with that as a focus, we're going to put ourselves in a really elite place.
It's like you got their back and you got it beyond the floor, like you said, beyond the court. It's like, I know what you need and what drives you and what you love. And, I love that so much. A true deep sense of belonging and care.
It's funny you say that because I always say to the guys, I'm in it with you. Like you're not going through this by yourself. I am in this with you. Like I am fighting with you. I'm standing firm with you. If you're in the mud, I'm in the mud. If you're in the water, I'm in the water. Like I'm with you. And I really, after the game, I'm sweating like they're sweating. And I'm like, man, I'm playing defense with you. Like, I think that's a strong sense of, no matter what happens, I'm going to always have your back. I talk about having forever relationships with our team and, being in a forever relationship, it's just, it's understanding the highs and the lows. And I want to be really exceptional at understanding the highs and lows and standing with them through that.
Yeah, I love that so much. And actually, I do want to highlight that for just a moment. I know you sent me a really beautiful, I'm just going to call it's a picture, but it looks like it's a handout and be a set of beliefs. And it's called Forever Relationships. This is incredible. Do you want to talk about that for a moment? Because I think that's kind of core to the work and your belief system, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I won't go through all of it, but it comes to this thing where, right now in college basketball and college sports, it's very transactional. Players are leaving every 6 months. They're transferring around. And I came back from coaching professional basketball for 2 years after coaching college basketball for 10 years, right? So I had a good foundation for it. And I just didn't like how my interaction was with our team last year. Pro sports are a little bit more transactional, but you have mature adults. So the expectation is we're going to give everything we got for this year. And when your contract's up, you're going to go do this. But you're going to give everything you got. But what happens with college kids, just because of the maturity, is they don't always understand that even though you might transfer somewhere else at the end of the year, we still owe ourselves something. We owe the men in this locker room. We owe the people who do everything can to keep these lights on for us. We owe this campus. We owe them more than just, the 3 months of service I'm going to give. So I really, I said, and so when I was talking to one of my friends, I was like, I didn't like my interaction because I was treating it transactional because they were treating it transactional. Right. Yeah. So you just got two, and you know me, I'm not even a transactional person. Like I believe in inspiring people and empowering people and people to be their very best. But just kind of walking back into this environment, I wasn't, I was uncomfortable with it. So now I'm making this environment how it's always been for me. And it's about having forever relationships. And and there's like a list of 10 things there that we're going to do for one another. And I'm going to make our whole program about that, about us being so connected, making sure we're always operating with mutual intent, that I want to make your day better. You want to make my day better. And I think if we do that, no matter what's decided at the end of this, we're going to have great respect for each other. And I think that's the key, is that did this person across from me give me everything they had. And if we can both look at each other and say, we did that, even if you decide to leave in 6 months or you don't, we've got a forever relationship built on respect and built on the right stuff. So, I'm going to really spend, that's going to be my speaking, when our guys first get here, that's going to be part of my speaking is what forever relationships looks like. And it's about making sure we're honoring the space that we're in right now.
I love that, which is so tied to what you said about what really stood out for you was the environment that we created, and is the value for you, the environment that you create for the team. I'm reading, there's 10 principles here, 10 points. And I know that this is what you're developing your speech on, but the last one is really getting me. It says, at the end, we embrace. When we arrive, we hug. When we depart, we say love, and we never forget. Forever relationships.
Yeah. I get a chance, I got fired at George Washington and as a head coach there. And so it's like one of the tougher moments in your life, but it's amazing what happens in those tough moments. I had 20 former head coaches calling me, crying with me on the phone. I had all my former players reaching back out to me. And it was just kind of this epiphany, even coming back into college basketball, where why did those relationships work? And what do we do when we see each other?
Yeah.
Like when I talk to my former players, whether it was 3 years ago or 10 years ago, we always end the conversation with, I love you, I love you, coach, or I love you. We always end it that way. And I don't think just because the environment of college basketball has changed that I need to change in that way. I still need to build an environment where that's appreciated. And that's what we're going to really focus on. When I see my former players, man, we give huge hugs, because there's a time and space where those people mean everything for you. And then they go on, they do incredible things, and you support them for that. So let's make sure we embrace. Let's make sure we hug, and let's make sure when we leave, we let each other know how we feel about each other. And because it is a forever thing. So, I thought that was a really good way to kind of tie it all together, because when I look back at all the great relationships I have with my former players, that's what we do. And I don't think that needs to change just because guys are now getting paid more in the NIL space. I think they need it even more now because they're going to get less of that. And, if a guy goes to, we just had a kid transfer to the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm happy for him. I'm thrilled for him. And no one's going to be cheering louder for him than me. But I just wanted him to know before he got out of here that if you ever need me, 10 years from now, 3 years from now, 20 years from now, you give me a call and I'm going to answer and I'm going to be there for you. And it doesn't matter if you scored 20 points for me or 1,000 points. We're going to make this much bigger than just what the game is. And that's what we're going to strive to be. And I think it's going to be incredible for our team. And I think it's not only going to help our team win, I think it's going to allow us to have an incredible environment where we have people that are going out and being really successful in the world.
There's so much emotion going through me right now as I just think about how you're making me feel, and to like, I'm like, can I play basketball for you? I don't know how to even do it at all, but but it's amazing. How can you not succeed when you have everyone around you saying, I got you?
Yeah. And I think, when you look at successful organizations, successful team, that's where you get to. And, and again, this space is different. I mean, I'm not sure how much your base will understand it, but it's like players are now moving around so rapidly that it's void of any kind of human interaction. And it's just becoming so business to business to business to business. And it doesn't mean that there can't be a basketball business that's respected within what we're doing. But I think I owe someone's child that's growing and learning in the world, someone's person, that child is someone's most valuable, most precious thing that they've ever interacted with. As a man, I want to make sure I give them something that's a little bit more than what we're paying them to play here. I want to give them something they can go and really use as they move forward. So I've always been that's something I've always done as a head coach. I didn't do a great job of it last year. It's going to be great to get back, get rooted, get back to my foundation as a teacher and as an educator in that way.
Take care of the people and then they will perform, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I could talk to you all day. It's just awesome. And I so much appreciate your time sharing your experiences and your drive and your passion with us today. Jamion, where can people keep up with you, follow along, or connect with you?
Yeah, I'm all over social. I mean, Jamion Christian, my mom gave me such a unique name. So Jamion Christian on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter as much. I mean, since the blue checks went away on Twitter, that could be a tough space for leaders. Yeah. So I'm not on Twitter as much, but I also have my website where people can find me. But I'm certainly easy to find, and I'm always willing to help. I mean, I love helping people, trying to help people become the best they can become. So, yeah, I'm easy to find.
And you're absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to continue to follow along on your amazing journey. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Connect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.